What on earth is this dish?
Huh? My mill Emily said that and threw the Tupperware into the trash. What are you doing?
Don't bring me this leftover crap.
This is just too much. I silently cleaned up the food and glared at Emily. I'm leaving. I won't come back ever again. My name is Linda, a 30-year-old office worker. I just recently married Kevin. We met at a mixer. I wasn't planning to go, but I attended because a friend needed to fill a spot, and that's where I met my fate. Kevin was so pleasant and handsome, and I had a great first impression. Talking to him was interesting, and I was drawn to him even more. We exchanged contacts and started to communicate regularly, leading to dates and meals together. Being together was always fun, and we grew closer. After several dates, he asked me out, and we started dating. Our relationship went smoothly. He always planned various dates and devoted himself to me. I loved how much he cared for me. About a year into our relationship, he proposed.
Linda, I need you in my life. I want to spend my life with you. Will you marry me?
Yes, I'd love to. That's how we decided to get married. We immediately visited each other's parents to greet them. Kevin, being sincere and honest, made a good impression on my parents. They liked him a lot.
Please take good care of our daughter.
Yes, I will make her happy for sure. I was so glad my parents liked him. Now it was my turn to meet his parents. Nervously, I went with Kevin to his parents' house. Their house was large and old, but had a traditional vibe. Though Kevin's family have some impressive history.
Well, yeah, my grandpa used to own a famous clothing store. Although it's sold now, he built this mansion with the money from the sale, where my parents lived, and I was born.
Well, that's interesting. As we talked, we reached the entrance after the gate opened. Kevin rang the doorbell, and his mother, Emily, came out. Hi, I'm Linda.
Hello, come on in.
Emily said without much change in her expression. I guess I was hoping for a warm welcome somewhere deep inside. Seeing her cold expression, the tension rose suddenly. As we were led to the living room, there sat his father. I greeted him as I did before, and he replied without changing his expression, "Nice to meet you." The atmosphere was heavy. Kevin said, "Oh, I brought this gift," and handed sweets to his parents. It seemed to be Emily's favorite, as her expression softened a bit.
Thank you, we'll have it later.
Aren't we going to eat it now? I was surprised by her response, as I expected to have a pleasant conversation while eating the snacks. Moreover, not even tea was served since I sat down. Am I not welcomed? That thought crossed my mind. And the conversation did not flow well. Kevin seemed not to mind much and talked about wedding plans. In the midst of this, Emily said,
If you're getting married, you need to remember this.
"What would that be?"
You can see this house is big, right? So, a lot of relatives often gather here.
Okay.
There's a gathering every month and a banquet. You'll need to attend each one and help with the preparations. If you can't do that, this marriage won't be accepted.
That's tough. I looked at Kevin, hoping he would object, but he said, "It's almost a tradition. Try to understand." I want to marry him, but the thought of having so many family gatherings is troubling. Should I really go through with this marriage? My mind was wavering.
Well, you might not understand. This is a custom only in well-off families.
Emily said with a mocking smile. I was infuriated by her remark. Being competitive and feeling as though my family was belittled, I was very upset. That's perfectly fine. I look forward to getting along with the relatives. Her eyes widened in surprise as I spoke.
Well then, I'm looking forward to it.
She seemed competitive too, observing me closely. That day ended, and later, a meeting between both families took place. During that meeting, Emily made various hostile remarks towards me. After the meeting, my parents expressed their concern. Are you sure about marrying into that family? I understood their worry, but I loved Kevin and didn't want to back down, feeling it would mean losing to Emily, so I couldn't think of calling off the wedding. Kevin and I had our wedding, went on a honeymoon, and then started living together. About half a month later, the family gathering mentioned by Emily took place, and I attended with my husband. I wondered if the relatives would be kind, or if they would be as cold as Emily. Nervously, I arrived at my in-laws' house, where Emily was waiting for me, standing firmly.
You finally arrived. Start preparing,
she said with a cold look, leading me to the kitchen. I put on an apron and stood in the kitchen with her.
You're preparing food for 20 people today.
I thought to myself, are you serious? It's not even a holiday, and we're having such a big gathering. I started cooking following Emily's instructions, thinking this is going to be tough. While I worked, she complained about everything.
Your skills are lacking. Are you even used to a kitchen? Your knife work is so sloppy.
I cook every day and consider myself quite good at it, so I didn't think I was that bad, and frankly, I thought her cutting was even sloppier. But it seemed like Emily just wanted to pick on me. I tuned her out and focused on the cooking. After all, I had to prepare meals for 20 people, which took a significant amount of time. I couldn't afford to dawdle because the relatives would arrive soon. Finally, the cooking was done, and I was exhausted. So I went to the living room to rest for a bit, but then my Phil said, "Hey, help with setting up." I was forced to prepare seats and tables, arranging cushions, utensils, glasses, and more. I wanted to take a breather, but I had to follow orders and couldn't rest. At last, the setup for the banquet was finished. I took a quick break, sipping water and relaxing my feet. Then it seemed the relatives arrived, and Emily called for me.
Hey, what are you resting for? Come and greet everyone, you lazy bum.
I was just taking a little break, and she scolded me like that. I thought she must have some personality issues. But indeed, I had to greet the relatives, so I got up, tired, and headed to the living room. The relatives had arrived in droves, and I was overwhelmed by the number. There must have been around 20 of them. When I approached, Kevin introduced me to the relatives. It felt like I had seen some of them at the wedding, but I greeted them again. They all smiled and greeted me back. The banquet began, and I served the food I prepared.
Oh, did you make this?
Yes, I hope you like it.
Let's see. Yes. Delicious. Spot on.
Thank you so much. The relatives were very kind, and when I brought them drinks, they told me to take a break and eat. Thanks to them, I could sit down for a moment, eat, and have a drink.
Thanks for preparing so much food today.
The relatives expressed their gratitude, which made me very happy. However, I was soon called by Emily.
What are you slacking off for?
She scolded me in the kitchen. I'm not slacking off. I was just talking with them.
You're supposed to serve drinks and clear dishes at this banquet. I will talk to them, so you don't need to do that.
That's just unfair. How unfair it all is. It seemed Emily just wanted to use me like a maid. And she probably didn't like that I was getting along well with the relatives. In the end, the only time I could talk to them was earlier, as I was constantly being ordered around by Emily. After the banquet ended and the relatives left, it was time for cleanup. The cleanup was even worse. Emily just gave orders and didn't help at all. Meanwhile, Kevin and his father were passed out from drinking, so I ended up having to clean up everything myself. Exhausted, I moved tables and cushions, doing all the physical work alone. Then Emily told me, "Well, you're done. You can go home now." Since Kevin was asleep, she insisted I leave alone. Feeling it was unfair, I walked to the station by myself. I was not only appalled by Emily's tyranny, but also disillusioned with Kevin. He hadn't cared about me at all while I was being overworked. He just ate and drank as he pleased, without a thought about the way back home. I realized then that he wouldn't stand up for me. The next afternoon, he returned home.
Linda, why didn't you stay over?
What are you talking about? Your mother kicked me out.
What? My mom? No way, she wouldn't do that.
But she did. I've been bullied and struggled since the party prep began. Hearing this, Kevin got angry.
Cut it out. Why do you always make such complaints? Were you hallucinating from drinking too much?
I was speechless. I hadn't expected him to distrust me and overestimate his mother so much. I had hoped that, despite his awful parents, Kevin would be on my side. That faint hope was quickly shattered. Since then, I've harbored distrust towards Kevin. Should I continue this marriage? But it's only been half a month since we got married. I wanted to observe for at least a year, feeling obligated to those who attended our wedding. So, I decided to continue with the marriage for the time being. Kevin seemed to calm down after getting angry, and from the next day, he acted normally again. So, I could lead a married life without much tension. The following month, the day for another family gathering at my in-laws came. I headed there with determination, wondering how many people I would need to cook for this time. "Good morning, Emily."
Come to the kitchen right away.
She was as brusque as ever. I grabbed my apron and went to the kitchen, where I noticed there were fewer ingredients than expected. "How many guests are coming today?" When I asked, she replied indifferently.
Just 7 today.
7?
Got a problem with that?
No, not at all. I was surprised it was much fewer than last time. With only 7 people, the preparation seemed easier. Thinking this, I began to prepare the meal. While cooking, Emily continued to nitpick and scold me. Despite this, I managed to finish the cooking. And as the relatives arrived one after another, the banquet started. I thought with fewer people, I might have time to eat slowly. But with the smaller crowd, Emily watched me like a hawk, issuing commands whenever I tried to sit. As a result, I didn't get to eat at all or talk to the relatives. Perhaps with more people, I could have found a moment to rest away from her scrutiny. I was more exhausted than before. Sure enough, my husband was focused only on eating and drinking and didn't offer any help. After the party, both Kevin and his father went straight to sleep as if it was the most natural thing, while Emily commanded me to clean up and then rested on the sofa. More tired than ever, I was not allowed to rest at the in-laws and was kicked out again.
Non-family members can stay overnight. You should leave now.
She said, smirking. The idea of staying there was the last thing I wanted. I was so exhausted that I caught a taxi home and immediately fell into bed. Kevin came back the next afternoon and complained.
You're too selfish. Why don't you want to spend time with the family? Going home alone is terrible.
I was flabbergasted by his words. You were passed out drunk, so you wouldn't know, but your mother kicked me out again, saying I'm not part of the family. He was shocked and angry again.
Why do you keep lying? I can't believe you are such a person.
That should have been my line. I was appalled by my husband's terrible attitude, continuing from before. I thought if this happened again, I couldn't take it anymore. About 3 weeks later, Kevin mentioned,
The next family gathering is during Christmas, and it's going to be large. It's hard to prepare food for everyone in the morning, so they want you to make some dishes in advance and bring them.
Okay. I reluctantly agreed, thinking refusing now would only lead to more trouble. So, I prepared lots of dishes the day before the gathering and packed them in containers. Cooking at home spared me from preparing at my in-laws and facing Emily's verbal abuse. I headed to the in-laws just before the relatives arrived. I helped with the setup, and then the relatives started arriving, about 50 in total. Emily took center stage and began speaking to the crowd.
Thank you all for gathering here. We will serve the food shortly, so please enjoy your meal and drinks.
She looked pleased with herself, as if she controlled the whole scene. Then she urged me to bring out the food. I brought the bags with the containers and began to take them out to transfer to serving dishes, but Emily suddenly grabbed a container and exclaimed,
What on earth is this?
What do you mean? It's the stew and fried chicken you asked for.
This common, pathetic food is not fit to serve.
She said that and threw the containers into the trash. What are you doing?
Don't bring me this garbage.
It was too much. She threw away my food in front of all the relatives.
Sorry, everyone. Linda made a mistake. Don't worry, I have ordered some fancy dishes as backup.
So that was her plan all along. Make me cook a lot of food, then throw it away in front of the relatives to embarrass me. She intended to bully me into complete submission. Unbelievable. How could she do such a thing so calmly? I silently cleaned up the food and glared at Emily. I'm leaving, and I won't come back again. And just so you know, I'm filing for divorce. When I said this, my in-laws and Kevin exclaimed, What?
Wait a minute, Linda. Divorce? How is this my fault? We've only been married for 3 months. Think about what people will say.
Kevin started to ramble on. If he was like this, I should have divorced him sooner. No, I should never have married him in the first place. At that moment, one of the relatives spoke up.
Can't you see the reason for the divorce coming up so soon is your own doing?
Then another relative chimed in.
Exactly. A husband who doesn't stand up for his wife against his mother is the worst.
Actually, the worst is Emily, who treats Linda terribly, and Kevin and his father, who do nothing about it.
One after another, the relatives voiced their criticisms of the in-laws. My in-laws and husband were shaken by their remarks.
What's happening, everyone?
Emily stammered as the relatives stood up one by one.
We can't stand your tyranny any longer. Frankly, we were fed up with being called to gather every month. We attended because we thought family ties were important. But watching you bully Linda in front of us made us feel terrible. Our family won't be attending these gatherings anymore.
We'll do the same.
The relatives began to stand up and prepared to leave.
Everyone, please wait. Why is this happening?
Emily got panicked. I decided to leave with the relatives.
Linda, I'm sorry. Please forgive me.
Kevin pleaded, but a relative sternly reprimanded him on my behalf. Don't bother her. You've done nothing until now. Afterward, I contacted a lawyer and demanded a divorce from him. He seemed reluctant, but when I mentioned going to court, he complied with the divorce. The in-laws were subsequently shunned by all the relatives, and their family gatherings ceased. Emily fell into depression and became reclusive. Meanwhile, my ex-husband became the laughingstock of the neighborhood and his workplace, known as the man who was dumped by his wife after just 3 months. He reportedly faces daily humiliation at work. It serves him right. As for me, I returned to my parents' home and continued working as an office worker. I'm glad I didn't quit my job when I got married. For now, I'm focusing on my work and saving money, avoiding romance or marriage. When I'm ready, I'll slowly start looking for a partner again, ensuring I interact with their family beforehand to know what kind of people they are. Narrator's thoughts. It's appalling how someone could attempt to embarrass someone else by throwing away their cooking in front of family. Emily deserves a harsher punishment. Linda's endured a lot, and it was right to leave that pathetic husband. Hopefully, she'll find a wonderful man next time. I wish her happiness in her future.